Hello, and welcome back to our Hope series. I hope you've enjoyed the other episodes that we've had on our Hope series. Today, we are going to be discussing the power of God to heal a marriage. And today, we have with us Scott and Amanda Stanford, members of our church, and they have a powerful testimony of how God has healed their marriage and taken them from the brink of divorce to what they would tell you is their dream marriage. And so I want to start first by asking you guys kind of give us the start. How did you start into your marriage? What was that like?
I think the first few weeks were pretty good, and then it very quickly deteriorated from there. We were getting to know each other, and we went through the dating phase, but then you get married and you're not in the dating phase anymore. You're not trying to impress the other person anymore. So your true colors come out.
Yeah, we quickly found that who we were dating was not who we had married.
And that can be kind of normal for a early married couple. They we all have that face and that persona that we put on, and then we find out we've married a person.
Yeah.
And so, how did the first year go for you?
Not good,
No.
not good, not good at all. We were both selfish. I was selfish. I was very stubborn. Um, I I wanted what I wanted, and I wasn't going to give an inch to her. And we fought about everything that we could
Yeah, we
under the
had
sun.
we had different goals and wants and desires and ideas, and we were very much opposite. And again, we were both stubborn and selfish, so neither of us wanted to give an inch. So we did not pick our battles. We fought about everything. Neither of us was willing to give an inch because we thought that that would result in one of us being a doormat, and we were both not going to do that.
Yeah, neither one of us wanted to show weakness. I was very rude. I was very mean-hearted. So I would throw a lot of insults, a lot of hurt her way, uh, which led to more fighting. I was kind of fueled off of conflict, where she's more of a peacemaker. So that combination does not mix very well.
So, you're in your first year, going into your second year of marriage. Um, is this what you dreamed of?
No,
Not at all.
not at all.
We both had unrealistic goals of marriage, I think. Um, you know, way different backgrounds as far as examples of marriage from
Yeah.
my parents versus her parents. I was raised in a split home, whereas her parents were still married, and I think she had higher expectations than I had in marriage.
Absolutely. Well, you said that you thought that this was just going to be one of many marriages that you would have. And so you didn't really care if it worked out or didn't. You weren't going to put a whole lot of effort into it.
Yeah, marriage was, divorce is always an option for me, at least. For you, you didn't have that
No,
mindset.
no, I didn't.
But during the midst of that, you're fighting. Your home is full of strife and anger. It's not what you wanted it to be. But was there something inside of you that desired to have a better marriage?
Absolutely. Yes. I saw the marriage of my parents, and it gave me hope. It let me know that that is possible. But being in the situation that I was in, I just didn't know how to attain it because we were not on the same page. We had no communication at all whatsoever. Again, we fought about everything. He struggled very much with depression and anger. Any fight that we had usually resulted in a downward spiral of depression and him telling me he was sorry and goodbye and he didn't think he'd ever see me again, which that causes a lot of problems. The emotional roller coaster up and down for me, it messes with you mentally eventually.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of hope that it was going to work out. Like I said, divorce was always an option for me. So, and growing up in the environment that I did, it was, I don't know, you always had a way out, I guess. Um, I didn't,
Commitment wasn't something
yeah,
that.
yeah, it was not, till death do us part wasn't even an issue.
So, Amanda mentioned your struggle with depression. Did that feed into your problems in the marriage?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. I struggled with depression for a long time, and I didn't even really know what it was or how it affected me until much later. But it played a big part, and my stubbornness and my hard headedness coupled on top of that, and the habits and the addictions that I had, the addictions to tobacco, that I needed that crutch, and if I didn't have it, then I would become angry and lash out at her, which she didn't like tobacco, so it fueled that rage. I had tattoos and I wanted more tattoos, and she did not like tattoos, which led to more fights and more, just
It was more the fact that I didn't like something was more motivation for him to do it.
exactly.
And so, yeah, he wanted more tattoos and I didn't want him to, and so that was just more motivation for him to absolutely go out and do it.
So you're really two people pulling against each other,
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
not working for each
No.
other.
yeah, complete opposite directions we were headed.
So things are not going where you wanted them to, um, and you're not seeing things get better. How did they progressively get worse? What was that like?
Well, I mean, over time with the constant fighting and the tearing down of each other, never building each other up, eventually, and then and all the depression and the threats and attempts of suicide, it's so mentally draining. You eventually just hit rock bottom, and I'm like, I don't know what to do anymore.
Yeah, for me, at the lowest point was we were camping and we were fighting, of course, and we didn't have very many times that we didn't fight, but we were fighting, and Amanda says, "You know what? Let's just get divorced. Let's just split and let's just call it done." And for me, that was a wake up, like, oh, because I always just poured gasoline on the fire and waiting for it to catch, and eventually it did catch, and she got angry enough that she started pushing me away. I always pushed her away, but she always kept trying to come back, and pull me closer, but I kept trying to push her away because that was just in my nature, I think.
Yeah. W- Well, and I guess like because I had always had the mindset of divorce is not an option, after close to 4 years of just fighting, 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 I had just had enough. And so then I guess I begin to think maybe divorce is my only option. And so, yeah, in the heat of a fight, I was like, okay, I'm done.
So we go into marriage and we have our dreams of the fairy tale happily ever after,
Yeah,
and and we're trying to get to know each other the first year, and in getting to know each other you find out you don't like each other at all,
right.
and you further push and push and push to the point that everything about what you wanted and what you desired in a marriage is completely broken and shattered. So, Scott, what was it like for you when you sat there looking at your marriage, realizing that this thing is basically over?
It hurt, but not as deep as it would now. I remember I was sitting on the beach and I was talking to my mom, and I told her, I said, I think we're getting a divorce. And she looked at me and in layman's terms, she basically said that sucks. And it did. I loved Amanda deep down. I married her for a reason, but I had so many issues within myself that I didn't love myself, so that I couldn't possibly love her alongside of that. And so it hurt, but not like it should have hurt.
Amanda, what was it like for you?
I was torn because again, I did love him, but I was just so tired of the fighting, and it wasn't good for me mentally. I was seeing the effects of it on my daughter. I was raised in a very peaceful home, and I had not created any essence of peace in the home for my daughter, and I could see the effects of it, and that was hurting me just as much as fighting with my husband was. And so I just I didn't know what to do.
So you're both at bottom now. You're there, and you both realize that divorce is probably the next step that you're going to take. Your marriage is over. There is no hope for your marriage. But what brought hope?
Well, in 2013, September of 2013, God called Pastor Mendenhall and Sister Mendenhall to start the Soldotna Pentecostals, and I began to come faithfully. And as I was coming, God began to make a transformation in my life, in myself. It wasn't something that was between me and Scott. It was changing myself. So my selfishness, my stubbornness, my just all of the things, all of my goals, my wants, my desires, they begin to change towards what God wants. And as those changes begin to make in my life, Scott started to take notice. And he had always disliked religion. It was just boring tradition. He wanted nothing to do with it. And I don't like religion either, but this was a relationship that was developing between me and God. And he sat back for a while and just watched me to see if that, the changes that I was making, the things that was happening in my life, if they were going to stick or if this was just a phase that I was going through. And as I began to continue to come to church, God began to continue to make changes in my life. And they weren't changing back to the way that they were. They weren't just a phase. God began to deal with Scott through me, through the changes that was happening in my life.
Yeah, I would try to pick fights and she wouldn't fight back. I would try to instigate and she wouldn't bite the bait, and it was irritating me. It drove me nuts because like I said, I thrived off of that conflict. But yeah, I watched her for probably a good 6 months to a year, maybe even longer
It
before.
was it was close to 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, I came to church on Sundays just to appease her, just to make her happy, because I really wanted nothing to do with it. Um, but then I got laid off in 2015, and I came to church that Wednesday, or that Thursday, that I was supposed to go to work, and it was all uphill from there, really.
So how did that change for you? What happened to Scott?
My walls got torn down. Um, with help from Amanda, with help from God, with help from you. My walls began to come down. I began to trust people, trust God, trust my wife for the very first time in our marriage, really.
Okay, so just coming to church, just being in church, is that what changed you? What was it about being here that made the difference for you?
I guess it was the atmosphere and the power and the presence of God that I had never felt before. I felt love and peace and joy and happiness, and it began to tear everything down inside of me that I once had. Anger started to leave. I wasn't angry all the time anymore. I wasn't depressed all the time. I wasn't suicidal. I wasn't unhappy. I was finally happy for the first time in my life, really.
And so just being in the presence of God, just that power, what an amazing thing to know that God has the power to heal our hearts and heal our lives, take away that anger and take away the depression that we have had in the past and to bring hope.
Yeah.
So what happened to your marriage as God is changing you, Amanda, as God is changing you, Scott? What's happening to your marriage?
I
Well,
did a complete 180,
180.
really.
It gave me so much hope, because as I began to see God deliver Scott from depression and from chewing tobacco, and begin to change his language and fill him with love, it began to give me hope that our marriage can survive, that this fighting and everything, it can go away and we can move forward towards the dream marriage that I've always dreamed of. And so if anything, it gave me so much hope.
Yeah, it was like somebody flipped a switch, and our marriage just changed on a dime.
Yeah.
We went from fighting all the time to very rarely fighting.
Yeah, we begin to have communication again, whereas we couldn't ever communicate before. We now had a common ground. We could talk about God. We would talk about the things that happened at church, something that we'd read in our Bible. It was a common ground, and then we could branch out from there.
So how many step program did you go through? What kind of book did you read? What medications did you take, or what counselor did you go to that made all the difference in your marriage?
We read our Bible.
Yeah.
That was the only book we read.
We yeah, the only counselor we had was Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, really,
We didn't, yeah, there was no 12-step program. There
no,
was no
no
counselor,
marriage
nothing.
counselor.
So you've got a couple here that is on the brink of divorce. I mean, absolutely on the brink of divorce. And what's so incredible is so many people are always trying to fix the other person.
Yeah.
And it seems like in marriage that we're trying to fix that other person.
Yep.
We know their faults, we see their wrongs, we see the issues that are in them, and maybe that's right. But when we're trying to fix the other person, we never fix our marriage, we never fix our life. It's only until that we're fixed inside our own selves.
Right.
And it was when God touched you, Amanda, it was when God touched you, Scott, and started to heal you individually.
Yes.
You had to be healed first. Broke can't fix broke.
Right, right.
And so when he healed you both, then your marriage came back together.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what's your marriage like today?
Awesome.
It's wonderful.
He's my best friend. I couldn't imagine not being married to him.
Yeah, we love each other with a love that we never had before. We have the marriage that she always wanted that I never thought was possible.
Right.
We're on the same page. It's so nice. I mean, we can talk to each other about anything without fear of somebody getting upset or starting a fight.
We can do projects together now.
That's amazing. But now you're able to dream about your future together.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You're able to dream about what the next 5, 10, 20
Right.
years are going to be like.
We're planning our 10-year anniversary this July.
Well, we're so excited about what God has done in your marriage, but we want to bring that message of hope to you that are watching today.
Yes.
If you had any words of advice to anybody that is sitting out there right now and their marriage is in the same place or maybe even worse than where you were, what advice would you give to them?
I would say commit your life to God. Let him make the changes in you that he needs to make, and don't try to change your spouse. God will change your spouse.
And give God time to work. It took time. We tell people we were 4 years miserable and now we're happy. For the remainder of our lives, it took time for God to change Amanda. It took time for God to change me and to heal us both.
Right. It wasn't an overnight thing at all, but it was a process that we could see the transformation. We could see absolute, okay, this is step one. Oh, this is another step. It's getting better.
Yeah, there's hope with Jesus and only through Jesus.
Absolutely.
Well, the Bible tells us that God is love.
Yes.
And in order for you to have love in your marriage, you must first have Jesus.
Yeah.
And so we hope you've enjoyed this series. And again, if your marriage is in a situation where you are facing divorce, where you feel like there is no hope in your marriage, we have testimony here today that there is hope for you.
Absolutely.
There is hope for your marriage.
Yes.
If you'll give us a call, if you'll contact us, we can bring you this message of hope. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.